Hello and thank you for joining us at Easy Cooking. Today we're going to make a Bulgarian staple cookie called honey cookie. Literally straight translation, that's what we call it back home. It's really good. If you ever make it for a big party, it's going to be a great kit. It's easy, it's nice, and it's delicious. Before we get started, of course, let's see what we need and then we'll move on. Eggs, olive oil, sugar, honey, baking powder, baking soda, cinnamon, and flour. For the glaze we need milk chocolate, unsalted butter, and optional chopped walnuts. Now that we know what ingredients we need, we can get started. First, we add our eggs in a bowl. And we're gonna go ahead and whisk them before we add anything else in there. I like to whisk them a little extra, that way the cookies get a little fluffier. So we're gonna do this for just a few seconds. Now that we're done with that, we're gonna start adding the ingredients one at a time. We're gonna do the olive oil, sugar, honey, I'm gonna use that spoon here in a minute again. Actually, you know what? I don't need the whisk anymore, so I'll get this out. I'll just use the spoon. We're gonna add actually the baking soda and baking powder, and the rest of the dry ingredients we'll add once we mix this. So we're gonna give this a stir. Make sure it's mixed well before we add anything else. And you know what? I almost forgot vanilla. We do 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I'm not gonna measure it. I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it real quick. You also need vanilla, so don't forget that. I'll put that in the description. I almost forgot. I always like to put vanilla when I'm baking sweets. It just enhances the flavor. So we're gonna give this a very nice stir. Make sure it's mixed. Then we're gonna start adding the other ingredients one at a time. Baking powder, baking soda, cinnamon. Now, most recipes that you are going to find out there for this cookie call for 1 teaspoon of baking soda. However, if you do that, that's all you're gonna taste on your cookie. It doesn't work well. I'm not sure where these recipes come from, but they are not, the cookie doesn't turn out right. It doesn't taste the way it should. All you taste is baking soda. So what I did, I did half a teaspoon of baking soda and a half a teaspoon of baking powder, which does the same effect. Actually, I think the cookies get a little softer that way, and the flavor is just that much better. You don't taste the baking soda this way. Now that this is mixed, we're gonna start adding the flour. We're gonna add a little bit at a time, not the whole thing, and we're gonna mix. Now some people use spatulas. I just mix with my spoon. No reason to add a spatula to this. It does the same exact thing as the spoon. You don't have to get all fancy. We're gonna do this. A little more. After all, we're called Easy Cooking for a reason. If the end result is the same, no reason to be trying to be fancy at home. People won't know whether or not you spent a lot of time on something, as long as it tastes good and it looks good. Okay. And we're gonna this. We're gonna leave a little more. I like to split it up in about 4 parts. It's 4 cups of flour, so and you're supposed to do 1 cup at a time, so I just put a little bit at a time in 4 separate parts. I do like to measure my flour on the scale though. 4 cups of flour is give or take 560 grams. If you measure it, it gives you a better, more accurate measurement, because if you're packing up your cups, your measuring cups too much with flour, you may end up with more flour. Your cookies will get thicker that way. Okay, and the rest of the flour. So we're done with that. Now we'll just finish mixing. Now you're supposed to get a nice dough that is not sticky. However, if my dough gets a little too dry, I am gonna add a little bit of milk. Sometimes it gets a little too dry. Let's see how it goes. Okay, now at this point of time, we can start using our hands. We don't need a spoon anymore. Okay. Let's mix it well. And like I predicted, it's gonna be a little dry, so I'm gonna get a little bit of milk. I'm gonna put that in the recipe description, of course. Sometimes a little bit of milk is needed. Not too much, I'm gonna put a few drops. Just like that. Let's see, we may or may not need more, but that should probably do it. We don't want to make the dough too sticky, so just a drop of milk should be good enough. There you go. Now it's better. Now we're just going to finish mixing it. Take it out of the bowl. And I'm gonna make sure it's mixed well. Again, you don't want a sticky dough. Once it's mixed, it should be good. If I could just get all these crumbs off my hands, I will be in a good shape. Finalize it. Sorry, it could be a messy process, but it's well worth it. As you can see, it's starting to shape up the way we want it. Before I started the video, by the way, I started my oven on 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Depending on where in the world you are that you're watching, you may want to convert that to Celsius. I think that's about 180 degrees Celsius, so you should be in a good shape if you go with that. Alright, our dough is ready. I'm going to wash my hands, and then we're going to start shaping our cookies. At the end, this is what you want to have. A nice non-sticky cookie dough ball. It looks amazing. It's ready. I'll clean up and then we'll start making our cookies. Now that we've cleaned our surface and we have a place to work on, we're gonna continue with the process. I wiped out my mess here because we're gonna sprinkle some flour. We're gonna put our dough here, and what we want to do is we want to get the rolling pin, and we want to make sure our dough is nicely rolled. Now you want it a little less than half an inch, maybe quarter inch thick. I don't ever measure, I just kind of go with the rolling pin, and once it's thick enough for my desire, I'm good. But again, you don't want it too thick because the cookies will rise up. We have both baking powder and baking soda in them. Kind of go by looking at it. I think this should be good. Back side over here. Now, what we are going to do, yep, that should be good. We are going to move this over here, out of my way. We're gonna get a cookie sheet with parchment paper. We're gonna get a small glass. That's what I use to cut my cookies. And you can get whatever size glass depending on what cookies you're making. These ones I prefer a little smaller. And we're gonna start cutting circles and placing them on our cookie sheet. Now they will expand. Make sure to leave a little bit of room between them. I have a couple of cookie sheets ready just in case the first one fills up. However, I would advise baking them one cookie sheet at a time, because if you crowd your oven, that changes the time needed to bake them. And I have not figured out how much time I need for 2 cookie sheets. And it's important not to over bake these cookies. They are supposed to be very soft, very moist. They will look like they're not ready when you get them out, but that's the way they're supposed to be. So I'll keep doing this, and then we'll put them in the oven. Again, 350 is what you want your temperature. Okay, tray number 1 is ready. We're gonna stick them in the oven. And I like to bake on, at the lowest level I like to bake on is middle of the oven. If you can, put them up top, a little higher. And we're gonna put our timer in 10 minutes.
Making the cookies.
Again, they're gonna look like they're not quite done after 10 minutes, but you don't wanna add more time, trust me. I've experimented with more time, it just dries the cookie. It's not the same experience. So I'm gonna keep filling up my second tray so it's ready when the first tray comes out.
Yay! Yeah, Daddy.
And we're done with our second tray. There's enough dough for 1 cookie, but I'm having my daughter play with it, so it's not a big deal. Once the first tray's out, we'll stick this one in. While our cookies are baking, I'm gonna clean my area, and then we are going to make our, start working on the chocolate glaze so that it's ready when the cookies come out. We've cleaned up. Actually, one of our trays of cookies is already out of the oven, so we need to get going with our glaze. For the glaze, we need any kind of milk chocolate. It doesn't matter. I just grabbed the chocolate bar that I had on hand, and we're gonna melt it with some butter. So we throw the butter, we throw the chocolate in here, and we are gonna go over here on the stove. But we are gonna put our stove on simmer. You do not want high heat on this. Do not be impatient. Let it melt. So we're gonna leave it on here, let it warm up slowly. Some people use a water bath. Because I'm on gas stove, this is good enough for me. Put it on simmer, let it warm up. This will take a minute. I'm not going to bother you with it, so we'll come back once this is all melted. Our chocolate's melted. Here's what it looks like. Can you see it? Awesome. Again, be patient. Don't force your chocolate because it's not going to turn out right. You're just going to burn it. I'm going to leave it on simmer. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab a cookie. We're going to dip it. Don't get too much chocolate because you want to have enough for all the cookies. I'm actually going to use the spoon. I have a brush to see if the brush will work better, but this is basically what you want to get. And like I said, the walnuts are optional. What I like to do, I like walnuts myself. My wife and one of my daughters does not. So I'll put a little bit of walnut on some of the cookies, not all of them. And we're going to keep doing this until we either run out of chocolate or just glaze all the cookies but still have some chocolate hopefully left. Or just use it all up. You don't have to make them super pretty. This is what I do. I'm not trying to make them fancy. They still look very good. And trust me, these cookies are good. And our second tray is ready, so I'll get it out to cool. We can stop our oven, stop our timer. Get your second tray. By the time we're done glazing the first tray, the second one will be cold enough to glaze as well. So we'll just do this for a minute and then we'll see how it did. After I'm done, I'm going to try them because I'm super excited. Our cookies are ready. I ran out of chocolate, so I have a couple without chocolate, but my girls like them better that way. So this is what we have at the end. I'll try one of each with and without nuts. Let's see how we did. The cookies are amazing. They're very nice. You can taste the honey. The chocolate is good. Make sure to use milk chocolate. Don't use semi-sweet. Don't do dark chocolate. Sweet chocolate is the way you want to go on them. I'll try one of these. Those are good. The cookie is not overly sweet. So it's kind of like a mixture between cake and a cookie. Not too sweet cookie. Here you go, Natalie. The chocolate is a perfect addition to it. If you add a little bit of walnut on top, you get some crunch, but they're just perfect. So I really hope you enjoy them as well. All my friends like them. Post some pictures, like my videos, subscribe, share with your friends and family. Hopefully you enjoy everything we make, and we'll see you next time.